everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of Psychic Zen 333. I am here with Nancy Barr, my beloved Buddha Master. Everyone say hi to Nancy. Nancy, say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hi. Okay, so we have a pretty packed up schedule or ideas about what we'd like to speak with you tonight. It's the same format. I ask Nancy questions that are culminated from different conversations, people, places, and things that I have from one week to the other. And then I pick Nancy's brain about it and she gives us her feedback. So with that being said, there's a couple different questions that are all interrelated but seem there could be different, but they're all part of the same thing. So Nancy, the subject matters for tonight are how to deal with the loss of a loved one in a healthy way, or in a way that is like the most conducive.
Most conducive. Are you talking about people who pass?
Right. So if we have a loss of a loved one, it's one of the things. This was someone I was speaking with earlier. It was a thing that happened suddenly yesterday. Ashley says hi to you.
Hi, Ashley.
So we had someone pass away, and I said, you don't know what their soul came in for. It might seem like it's sudden. It might seem too soon. We may have a vantage point from the physical, but we don't know from the spiritual perspective what happened here. The best thing is to just say a prayer for the highest good. So that got me thinking about all the conversations we had about how do we see loss? How do we make peace or have acceptance when we have someone we love cross over?
I think there's a lot of different methods and reasons to handle things in whatever way. It depends whether the person was, the number one thing is, if you just take nitty gritty to it, is if I'm not here, I'm somewhere else. If I'm not here, I'm somewhere else. And people don't realize that there is no so-called death is a change, but the passing of the soul is just that they're finished with this particular piece of opportunity. And if they're not here, if they're no longer in body, their soul is out there and in there and somewhere. So there's no such thing as someone being gone. A lot of times the souls will hang out and hang around people who have been there for one reason or another, who have been close to them. If the person is passing, like for instance, like in a hospital and they're on a respirator and they're passing, and you go through that process, or if someone had cancer and you go through this process of trying to save them or caretake and do all the things you can to keep the person there, there's a day there. It's believed that there's a day that we come in and then there's a day we leave. So call it destiny, call it whatever anyone wants. A lot of times we have no idea when, where, and how that's going to happen. And yet there are those that do have a date line because they either have an illness or some kind of something happens to them. But how do we deal with it? We have to understand that this is like a school, and we came here, and when school's out, we leave. And do we miss the person? Again, many times the person who left will be around other people, and they'll be around that person who misses them. And the best thing, I think the most honorable thing we can do for someone who passed, if we love them, is to not keep them and mourn in a mourning situation, but celebrate their life. I believe very strongly in celebrating their life and celebrating who they were. And even if they left in difficult circumstances, or maybe they left because of some horrible thing that took place, but their spirit is still pure and still having an opportunity to be around them in a good way. So I don't think there's. It's hard when someone goes because it's sort of final in our mind, and there's not. If we like control, a lot of times people like control, and there's not a whole lot you can do to control when someone passed. The fact that they passed, but you can control, and you can have peace and harmony with their passing on on a different level. So it's not necessarily an easy thing because we think of things being permanent and we don't like change, and we don't like people that we love and care about changing. And then there's people that pass because of war. There's people, a lot of people are passing because of war and all this different you know agitation that this earth is going through. A lot of people are leaving, and they're meant to leave because there's there's a new earth. There's a lot of other places that they're going to be going. And again, if they're not here, they're somewhere else.
So I have a secondary question. I have a fan here who has a question, and I have I'd like to ask you a question about what you had just said. So my first question is from Ashley, where she says, Nancy, what do you think about when spirits, in particular young children, stay in the spirit world and not cross over? So, like, is there a go between?
Okay.
And she's asking specifically for children.
A lot of children, again, were, it's a lot of children hang out because their parents or because someone that they knew or and this goes for anyone. If we're going to talk about ghosts or people that are on the other side that don't move forward, children in particular oftentimes feel either guilty that they left, or they will oftentimes feel that they see the parents, mourning, and they see the parents upset, and they're still in a little child mentality, even though their soul may be very ancient and old, but they will oftentimes hang out. The best thing that I know to do, or they may hang around because they get stuck. They just don't know where to go. And they may have opportunities to have souls come and help them, but they may turn it down because they were taught not to trust strangers, or they may be enlightened to the degree that they pass on and they go on, and it's just eventually they stick around to maybe because they have a sibling that they want to help, or whatever the case might be. But people who hang out and stick around, are, be it children or anyone, they usually need to be sent on. One of the ways, especially with children, the more you tell them that you love them and they're an angel, they're part of something really good, and the more that we have the courage not to celebrate their life rather than mourn it as much, in sadness, the healthier it is for the child who's still stuck.
Okay.
And this goes for animals too. It's true with animals too. Animals are very loyal, and they get stuck because we mourn them. And I'm not saying people shouldn't mourn, or they should. I'm not telling them what to do. But if you want to do something for the person on the other side and they're stuck, you want to have them feel comfortable about going forward and moving on.
Yeah, definitely. And I've had that experience, thankfully, with you, with different loved ones, and calling in the high self and asking their high self to do that which is for their best and highest good, and giving as much love and closure as you can to them and to the situation, so that they can more easily access that light.
It's hard, Teresa, because sometimes there's guilt involved, with people that are here. It's not easy. I remember once, I worked at the psychic eye for a long time. But anyway, there was a gentleman that came in, and I had worked with him before, and he came in and he stood there and he said, "I've got to talk to you." He said, I was in charge of my daughter, and I got a phone call, and I went in the house. And when I was in the house, she jumped in the pool. And I mean, there's some very sad stories. It's a lot of stuff that happens. And he wanted to, because I'm a medium, he wanted to see where she was at. And I mean, he was just heartbroken and full of guilt that, he wasn't paying attention to her the whole time. And there's so many things. I mean, what we would have done if we knew that the person was going to pass, would we have done something totally different? And most of the time, we wouldn't have. We would have just had a normal day. The phone rang, I would have gotten an answer. Maybe I would have looked out the window or whatever. But since he didn't, there's just a lot of agony. Well, it turned out she was there, and she was there with his father. Aww. And he was holding, and she was waving to him, and on the other side. So, I mean, there's ways to communicate with people on the other side, children included. There's ways to see what happened. But a lot of the things that hold the being that passed in this realm is our guilt and our negativity, or our sadness, anger, a lot of stuff. There, especially, if we knew that it was going to happen, I mean, that's one thing that disease does. It gives you an opportunity to sort of know that things are going to happen a lot of times. But when you don't, and it's an accident or it's something there, it's hard to let go. Then there's people that die of overdose with drugs. There's people that, have car accidents. I mean, we have all kinds of ways of leaving this earth. And it's hard for the people who are left. That's where you're going to find your courage. And that's where you're going to really see where your belief systems are. And that's where you're going to understand that everything changes and people move on. They go, they leave the physical body, but they're still maybe around in the spirit body. And and you can talk to them. I've suggested to people that they have dinner or whatever the person liked, and they had their favorite meal, and they set a place setting for them, or when they're all together and they want to remember them, I've suggested that they set a place for them and keep them in mind, because they're probably right there.
I love that. Is there a way for us to know, regardless of whether we have gifts or not, if they are in a transitory place or if they have completely crossed over?
A lot of times, if you're just talking in general, not just children, but just people in general that are what we would call a ghost, or, someone on the other side.
Right.
A lot of times what they'll do is you don't want that being to come into your body, and sometimes they'll try to, a ghost will try to, because they need energy, they can't force their own energy. And so sometimes the way there's a whole bunch of different ways. One way is because you're losing your own energy. You're starting to, and you think about that person, you feel like it just keeps sucking your chi away, and they need to be sent on. And sometimes there's flickering of lights. There's all kinds of things. You get a feeling, you get a sense. It's usually an energy pull that I mean, you start feeling it, start understanding or feeling there's someone's still there. Or you may walk into a space where they left, like if there were a shooting or some kind of really bad thing happen, really hard thing happen. Sometimes their energy will stick there and be around, and especially when there's big groups like the children that were shot, at school and so on. There's a whole bunch of them. Or anytime you have a large group, you're going to have a heaviness around that unless they're sent on, unless somebody helps them move forward. If the idea of helping them move forward is to either you can ask an angel or somebody, whatever you believe in, you can ask them on the other side to come and help them and take them. You can tell them that they're going to be on the other side. They can come back and visit once they're in light, but they don't want to be stuck because they can't go anywhere. It's just it's a dead end street.
Right.
So usually you have someone, or, we've done it. I used to do it a lot. People would come in and they'd be carrying a spirit with them, somebody close to them or whatever the case might be. Or maybe they went someplace and it just clung to them, shopping or something, and they make their way to to me, and I send them on. And how you send them on is just like lifting them into the light. You just call on the light and lift them into it. And you tell them that they can come back and visit wherever they're doing, but they need to go into the light first.
Right.
They need to be at peace and harmony first, and then come back to this area, because this secondary area is not, it's not positive. So you don't want them hanging out here.
No, no, not at all. And I agree with that. She said, "Thank you for asking and answering the question, and that what you said makes sense." So my
But if she wants to give a more specific way, if she wants to share that, I could probably do it in a more specific way. She asked about a child, right, Ashley?
yes, she did.
Asked about a child, and so I don't know if she lost a child or if there were children, or she's talking about children in general. But children are spirits, and they're not beginners. They came here, for whatever reason they came, and if they left because of something that happened, it probably was something they agreed to do before they got here.
Makes sense to me. That kind of goes contingently with the question I was thinking, where when I first started learning with you, we learned about the purity of nature and the life of nature. And one of the things that has me curious is, like, we keep having these fires out in California. And
Yeah.
is this the trees deciding, okay, it's our time to cross over, we're going to new earth, because nature reflects humans and vice versa?
Well, we have fires, and we have tornadoes, and we have floods, and they're all extreme. I mean, they're elementals, but each one of these things, take out a lot of people's homes. It could be, there's a lot of animals involved. There's a lot of things. Our Earth is going through a transition, a big one. It's going through sort of a death process in a way. And so the elementals, the water is undines, the fire is the spirit. That's why I don't blow out candles. I snuff them out or tap them out, because it's a spirit that is serving, like for a birthday candle or something, and you blow it out and you blow it away. So I find that, so there's salamanders, there's all kinds of earth spirits, the fairies, and all kinds of different earths. And there's a reason for the fires. There's a reason for the floods. There's a reason for the tornadoes. It's the earth going through its photon belt. Photon belt is the eye of the needle that the Bible talks about, or different people understand, that we're moving into a whole different energy field. So there's all kinds of changes going on, and it's an illusion in a way, because it's not real. The trees really didn't burn up, but they did in front of us. It's like watching a movie.
Right.
It's not, and I'm not making light of it, because when you lose your home and you have people, hurt, and you have your dog, that didn't get out and so on, I am not making light of the lesson that's learned from this. But because it's hard, it's difficult, and but at the same time, it's a play. It's like watching. We have a lot of movies that have a lot of people getting killed and leaving, and all kinds of things, and having all kinds of trouble and so on. But when you go to the other space, when you're not there and you go elsewhere, when you leave and you go elsewhere, or if you rebuild your house and rebuild your you start over, it's definitely a challenge. But there's so many ways that it depends on where you are inside yourself, how you're going to deal with these things.
Right.
And the elementals are going to do what they do anyway. Now, I just had a situation where I'm with a friend of mine, and we did prayers. Her sister lives in Texas and in the Panhandle. the whole neighbor, I mean, they're big pieces of land, and the whole neighbor on both sides of them, the fire was coming, and the fire took out one of the areas of the neighbors, took out the neighbor's area. And we did a prayer, and that literally the fire went straight up, went over their area, and went down and hit the next neighbor, and totally missed them because we did prayers. So I'm not saying we can't do different things with this. And I always am very respectful to the elementals. I used to ask them to wait till I got home before the hail came or things like that. And a lot of times they worked with me. So it depends. There's so many. It's a whole science in its own self.
So just to share with everyone, so undines are water elementals, salamanders are fire elementals, sylphs are air elementals, and then drones are...
There's drones, there's fairies, there's all kinds. There's many earth spirits. They're all over. They're a tree. Go up and hug a tree. Is a spirit. Everything is alive. Everything is alive. Flowers and everything. So again, this is a whole study in its own.
Yeah,
realm, because but I think it's a worthwhile study. If anybody gets a chance to work with elementals and understand and go through this, it could save you a lot. It could bring a lot of enjoyment. It could save you a lot of problems, because they're beings, and like everything else, at once, as you respect it and look at the beauty of it and appreciate it and send it love, you're actually doing something with the elementals.
Agreed. So Ashley said the reason why she asked about children in particular is because she does ghost hunts, and she's a medium, and she does paranormal investigation, and that one of the last or some of her experiences with doing this, she encounters children that couldn't explain why they were there, but they were also not understanding how they could cross over. So she was asking for advice.
Usually, a lot of times they will have, call in their governing angel, call in their guides, and so on. And, she's probably already doing this. Ashley's probably already doing it. But the children are going to, they don't always understand, because when you first pass over, it takes a while for you're still connected to your body, and it takes a while for you to get yourself oriented. This is why we have ghosts. Many ghosts are just lost. So the idea is to help them from this level, and one way to do it, of course, is to call on the higher levels to come and help them and get them. They're attached. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know where they're going, and so on. Because when you first pass again, you have a lot of who you were before you passed for a little while. And I remember once there was I'm not going to get into names, but there was a religious leader, and there was a big, huge amount of people that were lost to an earthquake. And I had a prayer group, and it was just sort of like it showed up in front of me. And the leader, the religious leader, actually could have taken those 2,000 people and could have led them, because he'd already passed, and could have led them through the rabbit hole, so to speak, led them to the higher levels. And he was so embarrassed. He was embarrassed of what he didn't think he was worthy of doing that. And I know in the prayers we asked him to please take these people home. So there's just tons of ways you can do it and be led to do things. And there's no distance really between the physical realm and the astral plane. We're part of the astral plane when we sleep. It's just we weren't aware of it.
Right.
So there's a whole bunch of things that people can do. But yes, there are a lot of children that are passing, and the whole, the virus. I mean, just tons of things that are happening. And this is a time of crisis. This is a time to get ourselves together in our spiritual realm and get together and really focus on get conscious and really focus on our lives and so on, so that we can avoid a lot of this, and so that we move through whatever is happening in a lot easier way.
That actually segues right into two of the questions that I had. Well, three even. So I
surprise,
have surprise, right? Okay, so it's the other day we were on the phone, we were talking about the importance of making our vibration as high as possible, especially in this time, because of the third, fifth dimensional kind of split that's taking place. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so, you know, one of the questions or one of the things that we've talked about, other people and myself, are how do you keep your vibration high during this time? Why is it important to keep your vibration high at this time? How do I thrive in this new energy? And how do I get free from suffering? So they're all sort of the same question, but there's some nuances between them.
They're interestingly, they're basically the same answer. So number one, the first thing, and one of the most important things, is to have the courage to let go of things that don't suit you anymore, that do not resonate with you. Because the third dimension is a world of belief systems. Believe this, believe that, told this, told that, and much of what we believed and told were not accurate. So the first thing that one can do to get into a higher level is to, number one, be conscious, and to let go of things that are not healthy or not in alignment with the way you think anymore, even if you were taught it and so on. Look at it for yourself, question it, find out, go in and meditate and try to, there's a difference between believes and believing and knowing. Total difference between knowing and believing. So we're moving in, when you get into a higher level, you pretty much know, and when you're in that knowledge, you don't have the doubt, you don't have the insecurity, you don't have all that stuff going on. So how do you get there? There's voices, they're chatter voices, and they're chatter, and their job is to distract you, and they can see inside you, and they can see your wounds and create all kinds of havoc. And they will rehearse you. They'll tell you that you deserve to be mad and angry. They'll tell you, you're not worth anything. And their job is to make your life miserable. It's called chatter. It's Maya. It's chatter. And so the one way to get rid of the chatter, if you're having trouble, like it's chattering to you and you're even aware of it, and it just keeps coming back and keeps trying to wound you and nail you and rehearse you into negativity. One easy thing you can do is, believe it or not, is hum a song, do humming. It'll take it away. It'll take it away pretty quickly. There's all kinds of techniques in meditation that the more you meditate, and meditation to me is just being observing something. It's not about, there's a lot of guided meditation, which is very helpful to move forwards, but it's more like hypnosis a little bit. And it's guided meditation, but the main meditation of purity and getting into having the knowing in the now and the knowing place is just to observe. So if you listen to your voice, if you quiet yourself and just listen to your ear area, if you keep your eyes closed and you'll see light, maybe it could be that if you listen to the sound of breath, the sound of breath is the divine. It's literally God in within. It's the divine. So, and if you get into any of the techniques, there's so many of them that are being shown, but get into the techniques. But the main thing is let go of the things that are not true for you. Let go of your doubt. Let go of the chatter that keeps telling you nothing's going to happen. You can't, you don't feel anything. You're not worth anything. And because self-love and love is the main answer for you and each of us. And the one that is the hardest for us is self-love. And we think that, it's other people or our problems and so on. just keep it on your side of the fence. A lot of places teach this, and by letting go of, if you can't forgive, you'll never learn to love. So it's just so important that we let go of a lot of things. Well, and then also the other part is to become conscious and aware. And if something happens, ask why. Ask for the solution to if anything negative is happening. Ask for the solution. Ask for the solution of how do I do this? How can I move this forward? What's the answer to this? And because I'm not understanding my life right now. If you can go to the fourth dimension, if you go to the higher beings, they'll help you. They're positive, and even though I might be negative, I'm not, hopefully, but a person could be negative, and the higher levels will help them. They'll basically help them. They're positive. They can see straight through it and give us the answers. The fifth dimension is even more fun and even easier than that, if you can do it. But the price tag is high, and the price tag is you got to come to it from the from the solution and not from the problem. It's like the problem never existed, but the solution. What is the solution? How do I do this? How am I feeling comfortable with all the things that are happening on the earth? How can I become stronger? How can I love the fact that, I love the fact that I feel peaceful and comfortable. I love the fact that I'm able now to keep my energy in a high level. Making suggestions and going to them with sincerity and gratitude is very helpful.
So when you had said let go, verbally or intellectually we might be able to understand the process of letting go, but is there any recommendations you have for
letting go means I no longer need this. Letting go is I don't think that's true anymore. Letting go is I think this world is full of belief systems, and I'm not really sure that I agree with that. Letting go is becoming more and more conscious and more aware. It's a natural process. Attachment is something that's the only way a person can feel pain is through attachment. And pain is it's just a weapon to make us miserable. It's a really bad weapon to make us miserable. Its job is to make us miserable.
I had attachments written down. So
anyway, what you do is you to meditate. Again, go. When I say meditate, just go inside and just be there. You don't have to be anything. You don't have to become anything. You really don't have to do anything, because it's allowing the universe to talk to you or to be with you or to feel you or to be one with you or whatever way it works to you. And it's just experiencing it. It's not about making it, controlling it, or making it happen. You don't have to make the ocean be the ocean. It already is. So it's getting more information, knowledge, and so on. But letting go, when people say letting go, that's a very frightening phrase. And I did say it, but it's a very frightening phrase for many people, because letting go means losing something. And when you're losing, if you understand what you're losing is your instability. What you're looking, what you're getting rid of is your confusion. What you're getting rid of is not being free and being caught and controlled. What you're losing or getting rid of is something that's not you to begin with, because you are already love, you're already peace, it's already inside you. You're already wonderful things and harmony and all these great things and ability beyond our greatest imagination. And it's already there. So if you get rid of the things that aren't you by not wanting it, and that's the baseline is, I don't want it anymore. I don't feel like that anymore. I don't think that's true anymore. I'm not so sure that I agree with that. That type of thing is more about letting go. I don't know if that answered it or not. But
it did answer it. And I had attachments written down as the next thing I was going to ask you. So you segued perfectly. I love how in sync we are. So our next, and actually that goes right along.
You want to go back to attachment for a minute?
Sure, absolutely.
Because I do.
Yeah.
I want to go back to attachment to explain attachment. What's the difference between being attached and having things, or being something? Attachment is a false reason for something. So let's say I have an attachment to a necklace, or I have an attachment to money, or I have attachment to a person. Okay. That means that they're my God. It's my God. It rules me. Anything that rules me is it's not the way it's supposed to be. The money should be serving me. Gee, thank you. Money needs me. The necklace is beautiful. It serves me, and I really enjoy it. I'm glad I have it. But your life isn't going to end because of it.
Right.
You're not going to destroy yourself because you know anything about it. You can have the same things that you have. That the same things with attachment. It owns you. Where you can have the same thing and you don't. It doesn't own you. You own it.
Right. Right. Well, like with attachments, so this is where I think some conditioning comes into play. And as we wake up into a higher state of consciousness, we have to, I don't say have to, but we can choose to, if we're going to be deliberate rather than on default, start exploring these things. I have attachments to, or I have fears about, or I have this kind of stuck belief system, and I need to decide to get out of it. And the frequent questions when you introduce somebody to the information is, how do I let go? How do I get out of it? How do I go within? How do I get grounded?
As soon as you feel fear, you should know that you're in attachment.
Okay.
As soon as you're in doubt, anytime that it's something that that runs you, rules you, then you're not. That is not your God. That's not who you are. So you start asking. One way is to start asking for your real self. Start. Right. Who am I? Know thyself. Who am I? What am I? I don't think I'm this version of what I'm hearing. Everybody thinks they know the other person. They're this. There's who I know I am, who they know I am, and who I am. So it's a process, Teresa. People have, it's something that people are going to do much more quickly, I think. I think they're going to get a lot of help now that we're in this age and we're in this time frame, because it's going to be really needed. But it's a transformation of letting. When I say letting go, it's a transformation for recognizing that I'm not in alignment with this anymore, or I don't think this, or I don't know. I'm not so sure that that's the truth. I'm not so sure that it has to be this way. I'm not so sure that just because someone said it and a group of people said it, that it's true or not true. I think maybe it's not true for me. Maybe it's true for the whole group of people that did think it was theirs, because we all come from different places, different planets. Not everybody's going to eat the same food. Not everybody's going to drink the same drinks. Not everybody's going to do the same thing. So, maybe it's not right for me, but maybe it's right for them, or maybe it's not right for them and it's right for me. So knowing and being conscious. And then I have a way to really tell, I guess, the answer to this for me. I do not get into right or wrong, good and bad. I try to stay away from that as much as possible. But I do get into, did it work? Does it work or doesn't it? If something works and it's peaceful and it's harmony, and it's good and it works and it's unity oriented, it doesn't hurt someone else, and it's not a negative situation. If it works for me, so be it. If it doesn't work, then I found that out.
Right. And then I love that about you. We have those frequent conversations too, where, you're like, I'm a good detective. I'm a good explorer. What I've learned here is what works or what doesn't work. And that's the kind of mindset that you've been able to plant in me, is that A, we're always solution oriented, and B, it's a process of elimination. Either the thing that you tried worked, and here's the reason it worked, or it didn't work, and now you know one more thing that didn't work, so you're that much closer to the thing that does. And
if
it's
something, if someone does something to you
mm-hmm.
that hurts your feelings, or someone does something that makes, it's disrespectful to me or whatever, I've got some choices to make. And one way that people have been taught is to do it back, or revenge.
Right.
Well, I don't know about everybody else, but that never worked for me. I
Right.
mean, it didn't solve the problem. It just created more problem. The problem didn't go away. And if anything got satisfaction out of that, would have been the ego.
Right.
The ego, but then the ego is always never going to be satisfied. The ego is always going to want more. So then we got to do more revenge, or we got to do more. We're going to hurt someone else, or we're going to transform that hurt and do it to someone else, or whatever the case might be. Because sooner or later we do everything that we judge. And so what works for me is that it's consistent. When something works, like if I'm loving, let's say I just go silent and I don't say anything, and I love myself enough, and I'm sitting there going, well, that's just their opinion, whatever the case might be.
Mm-hmm.
And then what if I work on myself and get myself into a peaceful place and say, maybe they'll come back later, we'll get this worked out, or I'm okay without it. So when that works consistently, whatever of the techniques that we have that are love, peace, harmony, well-being in the higher dimension, the one thing I will guarantee, and I can't say this very often, nor do I'll guarantee you those high fifth and sixth dimensions work.
Right.
They always work. They always, always, always work. The now is the place, the now of being into a higher level. And even if you're just quiet, you don't have to do anything. Whatever it tells me to do it'll be the answer. And if I do my own thinking, and the mind is contaminated, so if I do my own thinking and I overthink, that ego will rehearse me. It'll tell me what I'm going to say. It's going to tell me how to get back at him. It's going to tell me this. It's going to tell me how to, and all it's going to do is bring suffering. Because most people on this planet want to be peaceful. Most people want peace, and it's right inside of them. So you tap into it. It works. You tap into happiness as a nectar inside you. And when you want it to really, really be happy, no matter what, it's going to work. All the things that are of the nature of divine work.
True. Very true. And I think that's reliable, and it's comforting.
And if I'm in alignment and it's going to work, then I learn from it. Then I'll hopefully try it again. And if I become really consistent at finding out, yes, this really is good, this works, this makes me happy, then I don't have to go through. That's the letting go happens automatically when you do that.
Would you consider that to be trust when you enter into that spot? Mm-hmm. So that's what makes trust so easy or so identifiable?
And I don't, trust can be moment by moment. What works one day, maybe something changed. Like when we were in the Pisces age, we were in a suffering age. I spent at least 2 years or more just working on what the difference of the Pisces age was and the Aquarian age. The Aquarian age is an age of light. Even though it may look like we're not doing it yet, but it is an age of light. And so, I have a huge library. I think I read every book in my big library. And most of them are outdated. A lot of them are outdated. So whatever was how to get out of the suffering age of the Pisces age, the books, I'm not in alignment with anymore. I don't need that. Now I do what I used to have rituals or techniques and things like, all kinds of stuff that we used to do. I don't do anymore, because all I really need to do is light up and ask for light to be in my space, in my area. So it's so much different in this age than it was in the Pisces age, if we understand and are conscious of the differences. The differences are, I don't have to do all that. The dark automatically bends to the light. It's a universal law. It automatically happens. So if I choose that, that means I let go of the negative thought and belief system, and I go to a new choice. I go to a new decision. Decision is light up.
So can we expand on what are the differences or some of the differences between the Pisces age and the Aquarian age, and what does light
Well,
up look like?
this is sort of a Nancyism, but not totally. I mean, the way I explain it, I believe, I feel, I know in my own heart that there was a big conference, and dark got one age to prove its point. The negative, the false, whatever, the altered universe, the altered, you know, instead of it being organic and for the highest good, it was for the highest negative. So it got one age, and I believe that was the Pisces age. It was the age of suffering. I mean, you look at all the stuff, one more, everything. So what's now is, again, I used to say in the Pisces age, I used to say, if you light the light, if you get a light bulb and you light the light, the dark room can't stay dark. And it's true. I mean, if you light the light, the dark room can't stay dark. Now in this age, even more so, and this is not what's happening, but this is what needs to happen, is if you light the light bulb in a dark room, the light bulb and the dark room do not war. They don't fight. They don't war. And the reason they don't war is there is the universal law in this age of Aquarius that the dark has to bend to the light. If you choose light and you choose the alignment of the higher level, and I'm not saying and making yourself, a victim to anything. Masters are not victims. Masters master. But if you choose a method that works for you and is unity and everybody wins, then there is no war.
Right.
You can't have war and unity in the same moment. You can't have the past and the now in the same moment. And every moment is a new moment. Every single now is a brand new now. Every moment you have another chance and another choice.
I like how you said that every single now is a new now. And it's so true, but I think that's a great mantra to keep in mind.
This is an age of now. Of knowing now. This is an age of consciousness.
So
this is an age of beauty. I mean, look at the kids that are being born. Look at all the people who had these angelic voices. I'm sitting there going, the celestial choir's here. I swear the celestial choir's here. It's just amazing what they're doing with music and all kinds of stuff. I mean, look, there's so many incredible things going on. And then there's all this 1% or 10% of negative things going on. What gets our attention? What makes us fearful? What gets us? Those are the things. Fear is not your friend.
No.
Overthinking is not your friend. Listening to the chatter is not your friend. So letting go would be, I choose to go to a higher level and listen to them rather than to the negative.
Right. And that we're worthy or deserving of choosing that. We don't have to live in a lesser way. Like I just had a conversation earlier today about people choosing between, say, a recreational drinking, smoking, or people. Okay, so people experience stress in life and they may reach to an outside thing, where other people will choose not to reach to an outside thing. And this was actually one of the questions of the role of sobriety in one's life. And
I think people are different. I don't think everyone who drinks is bad or wrong or whatever. I mean, it depends on how it changes us. If it changes my personality, I'm not one who does a lot of things or anything that tries to change my personality and make me less than what my energy is.
Right.
So that was just a personal choice, but maybe that's what some people have to do to learn.
It's true.
A lot of things we do that don't work are just to teach us we don't want it.
Is there, like, from your perception, the benefits of maybe partaking in recreational things? Like,
I can't, that's an individual thing. I mean, the problem that happens in addiction, if you want to call it that, we weren't talking about addiction, we were just talking about recreational. So addiction, I'm going to go to addiction or whatever.
Okay.
The addiction is, it starts out fun, and it starts out because I want to do it. It starts out because of reasons and so on, and experimentation, whatever reason why people start smoking or drinking or drugging or whatever they do. Okay, so it starts out, nobody starts out thinking at the beginning they want to be an addict. No
Right.
one starts out, very few people, they go to get rid of, they use it to, sometimes, a lot of times to hide or to get rid of stuff and to get rid of emotions or not deal with things or whatever the case might be. Or to cover up stuff, or to, because they watch someone else do it around them, their mentors around them and so on. But the point is, if it owns me, then what happens is at first I'm doing it, I want to do it, I'm owning it. And then it turns into that, the same thing I mentioned before. It owns me. It controls me. It keeps me, this is where I have an attachment to it. So it just depends on what, how, and where the person is, I think. And the fact that it depends on some groups of race people, people of different races, can drink and they handle it very well, and they handle it quite a bit differently than someone else. Then there's other races that don't handle it well, at will. They just don't, and they don't handle it well. So, and then there's individual people whose bodies don't handle it well, and there's other people that can handle it very well. I don't know that there's a one or another, like a overall. If I lose me and I get in trouble and I'm doing something and it's wrecking my life, then that to me doesn't work. I find out that's happening, and by the time that happens, oftentimes it's a little late to even figure it out.
Right. Do you think that whether we are aware or of our, say, gifts, whether it's intuition, psychic ability, that not partaking or partaking has an influence?
I don't think we have rules. See, I don't believe in the rules.
Okay.
I believe in your experience. If it works, I'm not talking about anyone who's out of control or anything.
Right.
I don't have a lot of rules to become holy, and I don't have, there were things that I did as a Buddha, even as a Buddha master. I didn't, me, I didn't do a lot of the ritual stuff. I didn't do a lot of things. I did enough to be respectful, but I've never believed in doing things in order to make God work. I know God's inside of me. I don't have to go and do a lot of rituals to get God. All I have to do is listen to my breath.
Right.
We did dharmas because a lot of the dharmas you learned and I taught, and I was the last one in with Master Yu. So, there were people in there a long time before me. but what we did was, we were in the Pisces age at that time. And so it was more of a war age. We were doing things to protect ourselves. A lot of the dharmas were about protection and bringing your energy up and getting rid of disease and, all this stuff. That's what that age was about. Now the age is, don't get the disease in the first place.
How do we avoid getting a disease to begin with?
Raise your energy.
Is that,
and the way you the best way to raise your energy in this transition is to let go of things you don't think works. If you think that recreational drinking is not going to work for you, then don't do it. And if everybody else is doing it and drinking and doing whatever, I'm using that just as an example, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, really. Okay. It's not about lack of freedom. It's about being free. If the drinking changes me and makes me into something I'm not, then I'm not free.
Right.
If I want to be free, I want to be free. But then if letting go of something or letting go means making the change, changing something. So if I change something and I feel a lot better and I feel a lot more comfortable. And I'll do it until if it changes, then I'll figure out why it changed. And if it changes because it's supposed to change, then I'll go to another change. I'll keep I'll keep being alive in the moment as every minute, every moment changes. It changes. And if I'm conscious, I am going to be aware of that moment and why it changed, or I will continue doing it because it worked.
Does the recreational use of anything dictate whether energy is higher or lower, or
It depends on the person.
okay, and does it dictate our purity?
It depends on the person. I don't know. I mean, I don't know who all the, there's so many races here and there's so many people here and there's so many different things. I don't know. I mean, I know that, people have a glass of wine at dinner.
Right.
Well, I don't know that that's bad. I don't know if it's good. It depends on the person.
What I was wondering was like the pure, like if you're a channel or a medium, the purity of your messages or the way that you remain conscious.
I did not drink. I don't do these things because, and it's funny you should mention that, because that's what I've said this a couple of times just recently. One of the biggest reasons, I mean, my brother was an alcoholic, so, you could use that, or, people, friends, and I had people who died from, different things, drugs and stuff. That's not why I didn't do it. The reason why I didn't do it is, number one, I didn't have the feeling to, but number two, the biggest reason was one reason was I had two kids and I had to go get them cereal early in the morning, and having a hangover. I only did that once. And I know people are going to think that's weird, but I only did it once because I couldn't function. And then I did psychic readings almost every day, and healing and things like that. And if I didn't have a clear mind, it was going to be a lot harder and inaccurate. So that kept me from doing it. So yeah, I think for certain people like myself and you, or maybe you or whoever, it doesn't, it just doesn't go. It's not, but it's the reason why I didn't do it that matters. Not so much that, that I didn't do it because of some fear and awful consequence. I didn't do it because it didn't work for me.
Right. I understand that. And like one of the things that I contemplate is, so there's people who are awake to their gifts, and then there are people who are not necessarily awake to their gifts, but we all have the potential or propensity to be intuitive or to be instinctual or psychic or a medium in some capacity. So how does it affect us as a collective to partake in these things or not partake in these things?
If you want to be clear and you want to know that in the now, and you want to know, because a lot of things anesthetize or they speed things up. I mean, anything that affects the central nervous system is considered a drug.
Right.
So if you have some kind of need, there's drugs for medical things. A lot of people are addicted to drugs from medical, but there are drugs that happen that people take in order to balance themselves. The problem that we have is, once it's balanced and once they've taken it, what has happened is they've been told to keep taking it because of the money that's involved in the industry. Like, right. I'll give you one example of that is the antidepressants. Right. The idea of the antidepressant was to centralize and bring balance to the nervous system. But people don't do that. They keep taking it, so they get off balance again. And then they try to balance, and they get off balance again. They try something different, and they balance, then they get off. See, it's not so simplistic of the drug itself or what's going on. Has a lot to do our how we use it and our intentions and why we do it. And if I don't know. I know that I just went through a strong experience with a friend of mine on morphine. Now, that was given by hospitals and doctors while at rehabs, and they had a lot of people have a psychotic experience from morphine, and yet it's given all the time, and it's given because the person it's a painkiller. Right. So I'm not saying that until people learn holistic methods, until they use things like Reiki and different things, and if they want to, I'm not saying one is good or bad. It doesn't make sense to me to judge it. good or bad. It does matter how it works for people or it doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that.
And not everybody's the same. I'm sure there's some people out there that do okay with morphine. I don't know a lot of them, but but that's me. I mean, I don't sit there and look or putting anything into negative thing because someone else does something that works for them and it doesn't work for me. That just means I didn't come from their planet.
I like that
or
too.
if I came from their planet, I didn't do what everyone else is doing on the planet.
I love when you say things like that because I think that the understanding that we are so many races in one place and that the rituals and customs of one planet to another, one race to another, we differ so much. But
we have one thing in common. The animals, the trees, the the grass, the water, all the elementals, every single person, we have one thing in common, and that's life source, the spirit source.
the oneness.
And it's very creative. I believe the Divine Father and the Divine Mother are extremely creative. I think that's what makes me excited when I meet different people, different situations, and so on and so forth. Because I think if everything were cloned and different, the same, it would be very boring.
Yeah.
And that's what lack of freedom is where you have to be something that you're not.
That's
I would
true.
much rather see someone be who they are and see who they are and be in awe of who they are than to say, well, you got to be like me, or otherwise, I never treated you saw me, I never treated anyone like that.
Never.
Never. Well, one reason I wouldn't be stupid enough to do that is because I had all masters. I know who I'm talking to, so I'm not going to do that. I wouldn't be that stupid. I don't mean everyone that does it is stupid, but for me it would have been stupid because I know better.
Yeah. So before we end tonight, I had two questions. One is when we talk about removing blocks, are blocks and attachments the same thing? So we talk about, is it an attachment that's blocking us if there's something in the body?
A block is usually not always understood or known. A block means there's some misunderstanding. There's something I carry in myself that has a experience or a belief system that's a misunderstanding.
Okay.
And so a block would be that it's hindering me from changing, or it's hindering me from getting what I want, or being who I am, or what I want.
Right.
It blocks me because it's a misunderstanding. So until I get the misunderstanding cleaned up or cleared out, then it could block me. Okay, what was the other part you asked?
Are blocks and attachments the same thing? Like, how do we remove blocks in the body?
Well, they can be. If I believe that this is the only way that I can heal is to take a bunch of medicine. And I'm not saying that's bad for people. I'm not saying that. I can't make that judgment. But for me, it would not be the way I would handle it, because I know enough healing, different ways of doing things. But yet, again, with the 9/11 and the virus, I got it. Now, I survived it really fast, but I still got it. And, it could have taken me out. And so I'm not going to be arrogant and saying everything is right or wrong. That's what I'm saying. I go by what is, or what works, or what doesn't. So attachment is when it owns me. I don't have that many things that own me anymore.
And if we recognize that there's a block in the body by, so let's say that
we all have blocks. We all have blocks because we were in belief systems, Earth. We were in the third dimension of belief systems. We all had blocks. I mean, you're taught all kinds of stuff.
So the blocks, like, one, how do we recognize them? And two, so...
Okay, you recognize it. I didn't mean to interrupt. I keep doing that. I'm sorry.
So sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
The thing is, like, okay, so we recognize that we have a block by what's not working. Well, now we need to identify what is working. So how do we, once we, I have a block somewhere.
ask. The simplest way is, okay, how do I get rid of this? How do I solve this problem? If you consistently do something or doing something you don't want to do, like, if you can use it like smoke, I mean, it can be anything. You know, if I constantly eat sugar and I know I don't want to do it, I don't feel like I want to do it, but I just can't help myself.
Okay.
So that would, there could be a block in that where, you know, or someone who loses weight and then they're afraid. People say you've lost so much weight, you look too skinny. Well, or when someone's having cancer and they lose a lot of weight and they're on their deathbed. So I'm afraid to lose weight. I gain weight. You know, I mean, blocks can be all kinds of different things.
Okay, I understand.
Blocks keep me from doing what I've decided that I would rather do. If let's say I'm shy about, I don't believe that, I don't like the human race. I don't like them because now, I'm not saying that I don't like them.
Right.
I'm using that as a
example.
I love the human race, really. I love everybody. But, if I'm afraid to go out because I think I'm going to get hurt.
Right.
And, I can't live by that. I'm in a bad neighborhood. And maybe they are. But whatever it is that keeps me from changing and doing what I want to do in a better way, the higher level for me to make me happier, then that would be a block in my mind.
Okay.
Blocks can be past lives and other timelines that are coming up and bothering someone.
So let's say that you ask and you meditate, you get quiet in your mind, but when you ask, it's quiet and you don't get a direct answer in that meditational moment. I
think you're lucky.
That's lucky? Okay. Explain.
I think if you're quiet, if you can just get quiet, quiet enough to be quiet, I think you're on the right track. You're observing, and if you don't get it at that moment because the mind isn't interrupting you and creating a problem for you, I think you're lucky, and I think you'll get the answer when the mind's out of the scene.
Okay, so if we ask and the mind is quiet, meaning that no mental chatter is going on, so we've achieved the quietness, but then we're in that moment, in that session of meditation, we don't get an answer.
You will get an answer sooner or later. If your body is sick,
right,
you got if it's in pain, you got all kinds of noise going on, right? I mean, you feel all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
If you're healthy, you don't.
Right.
So when you're healthy and when you're doing the right meditation, your mind's not interrupting. It's not telling you you're crazy. It's not sitting there putting you into doubt and all kinds of stuff and craziness. That's a great thing. So that means then you will have clarity because it may show you in your life by having an action, and it may show you or tell you, or you'll notice the answer one way or another sooner or later, and your mind won't even disagree with it.
Okay, so just wanted to clarify for some people, the quietness is not necessarily that you're not being answered. It's actually a positive rather
than... it can be. I mean, you might get the answer right away.
Okay.
It could come in, you could see it, you could have everything, again, it depends on the person, it depends on how open they are, it depends on how much they do. Going in and listening to your breath.
Right.
Taking deep breaths and just listening to the sound of your breath can change everything around you.
Right.
Going into different, by going into inside in the simplest way. Sometimes you can do it in one breath. I mean, we do everything we can to not take the easy way. We do everything we can to avoid. Oh my God, I have to take this glass of water first. I got to drink water, but I can't go inside. Oh my God, I might even hear the name of God in there. I wouldn't want to do that. I want to do it, but I don't think I have time to do it. Let's see, what time is it?
Yeah, the chatter, the Maya. And then,
not trying to be facetious.
Yeah, so
it's true.
Yeah, I agree with you. It took time. It took time for me to move space into my head and be able to get to that point. There's a friend of mine who's been there for years.
We said time. You said time last time too. I'm going to challenge you on that a little bit. It didn't take you long, and you were fast anyway. But it's not about time. I don't want to give the people an idea it's about time.
Okay.
Time is an illusion. It's a choice.
Is it a certain consciousness that comes with the choice?
Yes. There's an answer that is all kinds of problems and the illusion, and then there's right beside it is the answer of whatever it is that you want to know or be.
Right.
And you either make the choice of the left. I see them like left hand, right hand. You either make the choice of the left hand or you make the choice of the right hand.
Yeah.
And if you make the choice of the right hand, then it may take a while for you to consciously understand it. But it's not about time. It's about your choice to keep going. It's your choice to understand it. It's your choice to use it. It's your choice to try it out. Remember, I don't know, again, if you remember this or not, but I used to tell you guys, I used to tell people that I'm not asking anybody, this is what I used to think or say. I'm not asking anybody to do what I say, but if I take you as a disciple, all I want you to do is try it.
Right. Yeah, that's how you are always very open-minded or open-ended. We always had free will to exercise. It was never do this or else.
Because it doesn't work to do it the other way. That's why.
It's true.
It doesn't work.
So the last question that I have for you is actually about your perception of, so obviously I do a lot with crystals, and I wanted to get your input on crystals, free of my opinion, but just how do you feel that crystals can benefit people, or how have they benefited you?
Well, I learned a long time ago before it became really popular. I was lucky enough to be in Palm Beach, and this lady, she had a whole house like in a sales downtown area, and the house was full of crystals. And I had never had an experience of crystals. We're drawn to rubies, and we're drawn to diamonds, we're drawn to beautiful stones and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we enjoy their joy, but there's more to it. You know better than anyone. There's more to it.
Right.
And so I went in and I walked into the store. One day I got my lunch hour and I went into the store, and there was just crystals everywhere. And so I didn't, and this gal said, she said, I want you to see this. And it was a moonstone. Teresa, it was this beautiful, clear moonstone. She said, this belonged to a psychic jeweler, and he gave it to me because he said someone was going to walk into my store that this belonged to. And she said, I'm going to talk to him about you. I said, great. It was beautiful little moon. It was a beautiful moonstone. So he said it for me. I ended up losing it. But someone took it. But anyway, I had this for quite a while. So that was my first experience with stones, because it would sit there and give me all kinds of, I get feelings and all kinds of stuff from it. They're generators, so, I've got crystals here and they're generators. And, but they do different things. I mean, different crystals do different things, but I don't know. What did they do for me? They opened up a whole world of the mineral family.
Mm-hmm.
And they're fun. They're pretty. They're good. I've got one crystal that there's a being in it. There's a rainbow being in it. And when the person was doing the healing, they said, Nancy, come here. I want to work on you. Okay, I'm open. And so they put the crystal under my chair, and it turned out, I don't know if you ever saw this or not.
I was with you when this happened. Yeah, when they put the
huge. You were, because my sister, my daughter-in-law was with me, but you probably saw it right away. Anyway, that it had the rainbow person in it. It still has the rainbow person in it. It wasn't there before. He worked on me. It just came in. So I bought the crystal, of course.
Yeah, you brought it home.
I think, there's so many things. I mean, I've got guitars, I've got music instruments here that were Steve's, and I have peace pipes, and I have, this place is full of stuff because I put my temple in here after it closed. But, I have a lot of things. What I do is I ask, Teresa, I ask that these things do as much work as I do, and do it in the purest way. And that's why people walk into my space and they feel good, and it's lifting, and they're just captivated by the energy. It wasn't always, as you know, it wasn't always like that.
Right.
I had to, clean, clear, let go of stuff, clean, clear, let go. Had to work on things, but everything has a job. Everything I have has a purpose and a job here.
Yeah, there's, I feel, I know, I have my own versions of experiences and understandings for how crystals have affected us throughout all the various times, but especially through this time being so transitional. The messages that come from crystals, the intelligence that they have, the way that they work with us, each crystal being or each crystal period are so unique. And I can explain it from people, but they go, well, you have Zenshine, you work with crystals, you are the crystal, like you love, that's what you do.
We have crystals, we are crystal children. So I mean, yes, we have crystals, but like in Cincinnati, there was a whole highway underneath Cincinnati and part of Kentucky. It was a crystal highway. That's
right.
Why the energy was the way. You could walk on one side of the street and feel one way, and then you cross the street and you felt totally differently. The crystals they're in the middle of the planet, were these huge crystals. They had the Akashic records there with them. I mean, I think crystals, I don't know how to answer that. How did crystals affect me? I don't even know how they're going to affect me, because they're still doing it.
Right. Well, I think
I don't need crystals, though.
Right.
I'm not saying I have to have a crystal or I'm going to need a crystal. I just think they're neat. But I don't have to have a crystal to be, get information. I don't need a crystal to do any of these things. Can they enhance it and do it and make my life faster and easier? Yes.
Right.
But again, I don't have attachment to it.
Yeah, I understand that.
I like them, but I don't have attachment.
Yeah, the beautiful thing is that we are source, so there is no real need for anything external, because
right.
we have it all.
And that's the important part of this age.
Agreed.
It's different from the Pisces age. Pisces age, we needed these things, any help we could get. In the Aquarian age, with the light being what it is, then that's going to change.
Right. Well, we have it all within, and we are love, and we're all in this together in oneness. So thank you so much for Nancy being here with us today, answering all of our questions. Thank you so much for everyone who watched or will watch. We appreciate being able to offer this with you. One of the last things here, I always love listening to Nancy speak. This has been a great show, perfect for this time space we are in as a collectiveness. I agree. And on that note, Nancy, is there any parting words you'd like to share?
Be happy.
Be happy. See you next time on next Wednesday on Psychic Zen. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.